Hey there, and welcome back to another episode of the Profit Pillar Show. I'm your host, Parker Stevenson, CEO of Evolve Finance and author of the book Profit Pillars. And today we're going to be talking about how to build a financial forecast for a coaching business or really any type of online business or modern small business that you can think of. And this is something that we really emphasize to our clients as much as we can at Evolve Finance because yes, the bookkeeping we do for our clients and the financial reports we provide to our clients are really important because there's so much to be learned from the past. Whether you're looking at what happened last month, the last quarter, the last year, there are trends to be pulled from that or insights to be pulled from that data that can help you make better decisions today. But there is a certain amount of planning ahead that can answer questions that are a lot harder to answer only by looking at the past. We would call that forecasting. And we do provide our clients at Evolve Finance with a spreadsheet called a forecast and budget tool. It's essentially a spreadsheet that allows you to shape what you want the financial outlook of your business to be. And this is something we actually sell on our website. If you go to evolvefinance.com, you can look up our forecast and budget tool, and you can use the same one, the same exact spreadsheet we give our clients at Evolve Finance. There's tutorials on how to use it. But forecasting is something that I didn't really have an appreciation for until I had my corporate job. So when I worked for Adidas Golf, I was working in golf footwear. And one of the things that we had to do every single season was figure out, well, we got all these new shoes coming out. How many orders should we place with the factory so we have enough inventory for our sales reps to go out and sell? And so what we had to do as a team, both with the product and merchandising team, as well as with our finance and planning team, was to go, all right, how did we do with previous year's shoes? What do we think? How many units do we think this shoe is going to sell? When do we think we're going to need these units? When do we think we're going to need to place new orders? Which colors do we think are going to do the best? Which models do we think we're going to do the best? We used historical data. We used an understanding of where our marketing budget was going to go, which models we were going to really push, which tour players were going to be wearing these shoes. And we made our best guess at putting in orders with the factory that we thought would give us the inventory our sales reps needed to sell. Now, we were able to get ahead of this by having our sales reps pre-sale or pre-sell and get orders before the shoes were fully available to actually ship, like months and months in advance. But ultimately, we had to take a stance, and we called that forecasting. Now, the stakes are a little lower when you're running a coaching business or any type of online or modern small business because you're not holding inventory. So it's not like you have to put up millions of dollars to buy product, have it sit in a warehouse, and then hope you're going to sell it. But there are a lot of questions that can be answered based on having a better idea around how much money you think your business is going to make. Now, I know no one here can predict the future. I can't predict the future for your business, and you can't really either. But when you if you take time to actually think, to actually go, okay, what did I do last year? How did last year go? And you have to have that financial data available to do that anyway. So if your books suck or you don't have any bookkeeping period, then that's already a hard task. But if you do have a bookkeeper, then it should be an easy data point to look up. How much revenue did we generate last year? Okay. How much revenue do we think we're going to generate this year? Are we going to do more? Or are we going to do less? Why? Why do we think we're going to make that much money? And that's the starting point. Like it really is that easy in terms of the thought process. But then the way you take that to the next level is you go, okay, we think we're going to make X amount of dollars this year. When do we think that money is going to come in? What do we think Q1 is going to look like? Q2, Q3, Q4. And then now you can plan your expenses around that. If you go, we're going to do X amount of dollars this year in revenue, then that means I got to set a budget for my team costs, for software, for really any other expense you can think of in your business, especially if we look at it through the four pillars, the four profit pillars. What are our labor costs going to be? What do we think our offer delivery expenses are going to be? Labor expenses, operating expenses, and you can set your budget around your revenue. And even better, you can even plan how much you will get paid for the year. So you're not just taking money out, hoping that next month you'll be able to take money out again. And one of the benefits to forecasting is setting a clear goal, because a lot of the times business owners just go, well, let's just see what we can sell. Let's see how much money we make this year. And the one thing I learned from working with a world-class sales team and sales organization as a whole, during my time at TaylorMade Adidas Golf, I worked on the Adidas Golf side, but Adidas owned TaylorMade as well, which is one of the biggest hard goods manufacturers in the golf industry. And they are a tremendous sales organization as well. We were all under one roof. So I got to spend time with a lot of really, really excellent salespeople and their sales managers and directors and VPs. I got to know almost all of them. And one of the absolute no-brainers, it's not even an option, this is just what you do, is every year the sales team had to go, what's our sales target? How much bigger do we need to get this year than we did the year before? And so the sales managers would sit down with the sales reps and they'd work backwards. They go, hey, we need 7% growth out of your territory this year. How are we going to do that? Let's work backwards from there and come up with strategies and plans that will give you the best shot of achieving that growth. So as business owners, that is a really powerful exercise to go through as well, because if you have more clarity, more intention, and a deeper focus around the things you need to work on in order to get your revenue to where it needs to be for the year, the more likely you're going to actually achieve that. And it's so easy to just go day by day and get really unfocused or overwhelmed or work on things that don't matter, things that don't move the needle, and you just don't grow. You don't get the things done you need to get done in order to hit these targets. So I think from a mindset standpoint, having even a rough idea of what number you want to hit, a number that makes you a little uncomfortable, that pushes you a little bit, but isn't such a huge number that you feel just completely deflated when you don't hit it, right? You feel like you didn't achieve anything. Where's that happy medium? Because especially if you're doing less than $500,000 a year, less than $250,000 a year, you have to be as hyper-focused as possible around getting new clients. Because when you're running an online business or a coaching business, you can make a lot of money and generate a lot of revenue without having to spend a lot of money on expenses. What really matters is that you're making enough money so you as the owner can get paid. That's why it matters so much. And the more you can set a clear number, you're putting down a number for the year. I want to hit 200,000, 400,000, 800,000, 2 million, whatever it is. That sort of goal setting, and I'm not saying arbitrarily pick a number, but that type of goal setting actually mentally allows you to start to problem solve. How am I going to get there? Versus, I just want to make as much money as I can this year. Sure, you get lucky and maybe you do make more money this year than you did the year before. But ultimately, there is power in forecasting and having a plan. And that's something a spreadsheet makes so easy to do. And I think a lot of business owners go, oh, well, I can't do that. I don't know spreadsheets very well. I just don't think that that's true. There's just too many. Again, we have a template for sale. It's fairly affordable, but you can also just open up a spreadsheet, make columns that say January, February, March, April, all the way through December, and plug some numbers in. And I think that exercise is so underrated in terms of getting you to think strategically and get focused. So typically what I would tell one of our clients is open up the spreadsheet, do your forecast, then go in there, set up all your expenses, map them all out for the year. How profitable are you going to be? Now, when we are forecasting, we don't have to just pick a number out of the air unless our business is brand new and we've just never done anything. If you're literally making $0 right now, your first thing might be, how do I start making $2,000 a month? That's the goal. How do we make sure we hit 24,000? That's fine. But if you've been in business for a while, which our clients at Evolve Finance will be, you start with looking at last year's number and go, how much money did we make? Now for this year, how am I going to grow that? What things are we working on that gives me some confidence that we're going to grow? Maybe some of your strategies give you a lot of confidence, so you're going to add 20, 50, 100% growth. Maybe you don't really have a lot of strategies, or maybe your business is struggling. And you're like, well, I just want to do what we did last year, but I want to do it more profitably. Cool. Make a decision around that and do it, and put a plan of action in place. Now, again, we have a whole spreadsheet. I'm not going to walk you through what I would do in a spreadsheet in an audio and video podcast where I have no spreadsheet to show you. But I do think I can walk you through a little bit mentally of how you can work backwards, especially with a really straightforward business model where you're a coach, or you sell courses, or you're a consultant, or something where there's not a lot of variables, or your business is on the smaller side, so those variables aren't in place yet. But the one thing that I will say about Profit First is the idea of setting the attention. It's a book by Mike Michalowicz that talks about how do you make sure your business is putting you as the owner getting paid as a priority. And so I do agree that is an important thing to be thinking about, which is why I would say the first thing you can do when you're thinking about a forecast, if you want to kind of work backwards, is how much money do you want to make personally? Or at the very minimum, how much do you need to make to pay your bills? So do you know that number? Like, what's the number you need to break even personally so all your bills get paid? Maybe you're not saving any money, but you're at least going to pay your mortgage or your rent, food, insurance, all those things, and get by. And sometimes you have to think like that, because if your business is newer or it's not generating a ton of revenue yet and you don't have any other form of income, then that is a good first step. How do I make sure that I'm generating enough profit to at least cover that? But getting clear on what do you need to make personally each month? Is it 4,000? Is it 7,000, 10,000, 15,000, right? What do you need to make in order to cover your bills? And obviously there's a tremendous amount of factors here. Excuse me. Like, do you have a spouse? Do they make money, right? You may not need to make as much money if you have a higher earner spouse. If you're a single parent, you may need to make way more money in order to make your business work, or at least be more profitable because you're the only one paying the bills in your household. So you have to take all those factors into consideration, but ultimately, what do you need to make personally? And then once you get that number clear, which this is why having a personal budget is so important, because then you can get really granular around what that number needs to be, which, by the way, we also sell a personal budget for entrepreneurs on our website. But then you can start to go, okay, well, how much profit does my business need to generate to cover that? And if, let's say, you need to make $5,000 a month personally to pay your bills, well, that's $5,000 a month after taxes. So that means your business would maybe need to generate more like $7,000 to $8,000 a month. You put $2,000 to $3,000 away for taxes, and then you can pay yourself the rest. A good number we like to start with, at least for US-based businesses, is 30% for taxes. It could be a little less if you live in a state with no state income tax. It could be a little more if you're in a higher state tax state like California. So 30% is a good starting point, but you can always talk to an accountant around, hey, what percentage of my business's profit should I be saving for taxes? So you need to tack on enough money to your profit to make sure that you can also cover your taxes. So that's really important. So if your business is generating $5K a month in profit, but you need $5K to pay your bills, you're going to have a real rough time when tax time comes around. So it's important we're thinking about that extra cushion. And then ideally, as you forecast out, you're generating enough profit to not just pay your taxes, but to start to build out some savings in your business too, which we talk a lot about in my book, Profit Pillars. So once you know what your profit needs to be, then you can go, all right, how much money am I spending in my business right now? Like, what are my monthly expenses? If you have bookkeeping, that's going to be a really easy question to answer. If you don't, then you might need to do some math on a spreadsheet. Let's add up all my software subscriptions. Let's add up the contractors I'm working with. Let's add up, my cell phone and internet and utility. Like, just add up all those expenses and go, okay, on average, I'm spending X amount of dollars in my business for my normal monthly expenses. So then from there, you go, well, given how much my expenses are, how much revenue do I need to generate in order to not just cover those expenses, but also have the profit left over that I need to be able to pay myself while also covering my taxes? The math is really, really simple, but we're kind of working backwards here from what do I need to make personally? So how much profit does the business need to generate in order to pay me that plus pay my tax bill? Okay, well, based on my average amount of expenses right now, how much revenue do I need to generate to cover those expenses and hit my profit targets, which will allow me to pay myself what I need to make on a monthly basis? So the math behind that is really not very difficult, but do you know those numbers? Have you actually ever put those on paper to get really clear on what these numbers need to be in order to hit them? And I do think that there are some entrepreneurs who are like very metric based, very KPI, key performance indicator driven. I want data, I want numbers, so that way I know where we're going, how we're going to do it. And then there's a lot of us that go, I'm just going to take it day to day and I'm just going to operate and hopefully good things happen. And that's something where if you want to be a successful entrepreneur, we have to get honest with ourselves around the numbers as fast as humanly possible. If I were going to go off and start a new business, I'm doing a little mini forecast. I'm doing a little mini budget, even if it's a down and dirty quick one. How much revenue do we need to generate to cover the expenses that I know we have to cover so I can have the profit left over I need to pay my bills, including my tax bill? And if I can't make those numbers work, if I don't feel confident in those numbers, I'm not even starting the business then. I got to go come up with another idea. A lot of people start the business and worry about the numbers later, and I get why, but so much of entrepreneurship is about, are you brave enough to look at the reality of your situation? If you put your head in the sand, sure, in the short term, you don't have to deal with the stress or the anxiety of a problem in front of you that maybe you don't really want to have to deal with, but eventually it's going to catch up to you. You'll see it as you take on debt and you take out more loans, or your credit card expenses or credit card bill goes up and you're not paying it off every month. Like, it's going to get you eventually. So the sooner you can make the math work here on what the business is going to look like in the future, the less you actually have to stress and the more you can focus on solving problems. And that is such a big part of running a business, is how good are you at solving problems and how willing are you to solve problems? Even if it's solving problems around things that maybe is not your wheelhouse, it's not your favorite thing to work on, but being able to do something like I just walked us through of setting up a basic forecast or a basic budget to know roughly, we're not even talking exact here, roughly where your numbers need to be in order to support yourself, I think is it's crucial. It's a non-negotiable to me. So if you can go through an exercise like this, how much revenue do I need to generate based on the amount of expenses I have to hit my profit target so I can pay myself? That's something you can sit down and probably knock out in 30 minutes. But then to go to the next level, you go, okay, how many customers do you need to close each month to hit those monthly revenue targets? Now, depending on the pricier offer, that might be 100 people. It might be 2 people, 2 customers. It just depends on what you're selling and how much it costs. But there's something liberating when you know exactly how many people you need to sell in each month or each quarter or even for the year. Even if you don't get into the granular, like daily, weekly, monthly, how many people do we need to sell for the year? That alone it's empowering. And if it doesn't feel empowering, then it means you're probably setting goals that really aren't achievable and you don't have a plan to get there. And it's important for you to know that so you don't go into debt or spend money you don't have to figure that out, to get there. I understand there are entrepreneurs who take the big leaps of faith and they believe in themselves and they just figure it out. I get that happens, but that is not the norm. The norm is that most businesses fail because they don't pay attention to their numbers. They don't take the time to really get honest with themselves about their business. And so by not just forecasting your revenue for the year, but then going, well, how many customers do I need to sell at whatever price point my offers are to hit that goal? Now you got some focused intention going on here. Now you can build a plan around that. Not a plan to get you to $1 gazillion, which is what entrepreneurs love to do, is think, what's the biggest, best result that could come about and having this huge business. What are you going to do this year? Where are you going to get to this year? And so when you know exactly how many clients you need to close or how many customers you need to close in order to hit those revenue goals so you can hit your profitability goals and pay yourself what you need to make personally, we're getting more strategic and we're getting more focused. And then when you think about how many customers you need to sell, then the next question you can ask is, well, do I have a seasonality to my sales? Do I sell during certain times a year? Maybe I need to really be ready to sell during the winter and holiday season, and we really got to take advantage of that period of time because 60, 70, 80% of my sales are going to come during that period of time. Or maybe summer's your hot season. And you're like, I got to sell during summer. That's what my customers want. So that's where I'm going to make my year. So then you can really focus your marketing and sales activities around that seasonality. So this is what we're talking about with planning and with forecasting. As entrepreneurs, it is so easy to get distracted. It is so easy to put more on our plates than we can actually achieve. And this is where finance and accounting is so underrated. I can't tell you how many times my business partner, Corey Whitaker, and myself have solved massive issues in our business with a spreadsheet. How we've set the course for our business by plugging in some numbers into a spreadsheet. It's been instrumental in our success and our ability to set goals and achieve those goals, to figure out what we actually need to work on versus what's a distraction. And we're not perfect. We still get distracted. We still, we're not always picking the right things to work on all the time. But I know for a fact we're a heck of a lot better than a lot of the other entrepreneurs I know, because we're not afraid to get into our numbers and do some forecasting and to plan ahead. And I'm not asking anyone here to spend hours each day planning, because we all need to spend more time executing. But so much of the time we're executing on things that aren't actually the most important things in our businesses. So the way we start to get better at figuring out what the most important things are is by setting forecasts, sales goals, getting an understanding of what our monthly average expenses are, so we can make sure our sales and revenue goals are covering those expenses and hitting our profitability goals. You could build out something very simple in a spreadsheet. You could go and buy our spreadsheet at evolvefinance.com, our forecast and budget spreadsheet, or you can even hire someone to help you build this stuff out. The bigger your business is, the more you need to have an operations person that can help you with this, or the more you need to bring in a contractor to help you do this. But I am such a big proponent of starting early. If you can build out a nice, simple, easy forecast and budget for your coaching business or any other online business now while your business is smaller or at whatever size it is, right? Like I'm assuming that if you're listening to this, your business is only going to get bigger in the long run. So do it while it's at this size so you can wrap your head around what you're spending money on, how much money is coming in before it gets overwhelming and there's so much going on you can't even keep track of it on your own. Do it now. Build the skills now, because as your business grows, to have the ability for you and or anyone on your team to manage a spreadsheet with your forecast on it, setting the course for how much revenue we're going to generate this year, and then building out your sales and marketing plans around how you're going to achieve those numbers. Not sales and marketing plans that arbitrarily say, let's make $1 gazillion, but sales and marketing strategies that are going to get us to $50,000 in revenue this year, or $500,000 in revenue this year, or $5 million in revenue this year. That's where the magic happens. That's when we start taking focused intention and we start doing more of the things that are actually going to work. But again, this becomes so much easier if we have bookkeeping. Whether you're working with someone like our team at Evolve Finance, or you're using a bookkeeping spreadsheet like the bookkeeping spreadsheet we saw on our website at Evolve Finance. And it's also a heck of a lot easier to forecast and budget if someone's already built the template for you, like we have on our website, our forecast and budgeting spreadsheet. So there are things you can do to make this easier for yourself, but the smaller your business is, the more you can probably just open up a Google sheet and start plugging in some numbers, even if you don't have that much experience with spreadsheets. Get some experience, try, figure some things out. The bigger your business is, then hopefully the more resources you have to get better bookkeeping, bring someone else in to maybe help you get going on building out your forecast and budget, or at the very least you have members on your team who maybe have some spreadsheet experience, are decent with spreadsheets, and y'all can sit down and put together a forecast for your business for the next 3, 6, 12 months, whatever you want to do there. But no matter where you're at in your business, this isn't some big advanced concept that only large corporations do. Forecasting is something every business should be doing. If you have a clear idea of where you want your business to get to, then chances are you're going to build out a better plan to get you there, and your numbers can guide you. They can lead the way. That's why we all got to start becoming numbers people. Numbers people aren't just the accounting and finance nerds. Every business owner needs to have a side of them that can look at the numbers, think about their business from a numbers perspective, because it's going to give you such an advantage. So I hope you all enjoyed this episode. If you have any questions, thoughts about this, please feel free to reach out to us at info@evolvefinance.com. Otherwise, I'll see you in the next episode.